Okay, again, my name is Tony Seciwa. I am a lieutenant with the Gallup Police Department. I've been with the Gallup Police Department approximately 21 years. I was there for 2 years. I left and this last go around been 19 and a half years. Uh, I've been a police officer since 1989, so a little bit over 36 years I've been doing this, and with more of an emphasis on criminal investigations. Now, I'm currently in charge of the Criminal Investigation Division for the Gallup Police Department. And a lot of the things we do has to deal with people, in particular missing persons. Um, the question came up, why are we doing this? And well, to be honest with you, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. And a lot of these things hit home. Um, we got involved in the sober house deals where we had these white vans going around picking up intoxicated people. That was our start into really getting into missing persons and looking into the area of human trafficking. Um, and at the same time, we were working with a lot of missing juveniles. But just to give you an idea of what we deal with here, since January 1st, 2021 until August 18th of this year, we have had a total of 695 missing persons reports for the city of Gallup. 695 in the last 5 years. Now, currently right now, among that, only 11 are still outstanding.
Wow.
For this year alone, we have like 80, I believe 85 cases, and we have maybe 3 that are still open. Of all of these cases, though, in the last 5 years, we had 308 which were juveniles. And right now, I'm proud to say we only have 1 that's still outstanding. So we take this very seriously. Why? Because missing people oftentimes wind up being victims of crimes. And if we don't take these seriously, we can wind up instead of looking for a missing person, we can wind up looking at a homicide. So we have to look into these things. We have to look into these matters. We have to take take these seriously. Right now, a lot of departments, a lot of agencies don't put a high priority on missing persons, and partially the reason a lot of times missing persons is not a crime. It's not a crime to be a missing person. Same way with runaways. It's not a crime in the state of Mexico. It's not a crime to be a runaway. So a lot of these are low priority for a lot of departments, but for the Gallup Police Department, we don't look at it that way. They are priority ones. They are up there with our homicides, with our with anything that would result in death or great bodily harm. These are up there. So we take them very, very seriously. So we do assign these cases. We also take cases from outside agencies. We realize that some agencies, for whatever reason, cannot take some of these reports. So they do come to us. We will file a report. We will circulate a flyer, and we will refer those to the appropriate agencies for investigation. We obviously can't investigate something that happened outside of the city jurisdiction, outside the city limits, but we can do as much as we can. And that is the whole part of this, is we gotta do what we can. There's some things that we can do, some things we can't, but we have to try, we have to do what we can. So, that being said, when Melina asked me to do this, I said, okay, we'll do this. When a child goes missing, response and recovery and prevention protocols, well, I like to think about this as not just for children, it's for everybody. I appreciate the MMIP, I really do. However, I don't like, me personally, call it MMIP. I'd rather just MMP, missing murdered people, because we don't discriminate. You know, it's not just indigenous people that we have a problem with that are going up missing. We got of all walks, all races, they're all out there, and Instead of just saying that we're just gonna work with this particular group, we're working with all of them. And we all look at them we all look at them equally. It doesn't matter. For a city gal, it does not matter. So you could be Hispanic, you could be Asian, you could be Middle Eastern, it doesn't matter. We have had those. So that being said, let's get a little bit started here. All right. So, before we even get into this, there are some definitions that we need to know about. First of all, juvenile. A juvenile is basically a child or anyone under age 18. So if they're 17 and a half, they're considered a juvenile. You're gonna hear me speak with the CYFD, which stands for the New Mexico Children's Youth and Families Division, which for those of you who aren't from here, basically is the state social services in a nutshell. I'm gonna mention something about the community caretaker doctrine. That is a doctrine that lets officers help in need without certain evidence, because we're not looking at crimes. We're looking at the community, we're looking at helping people, and the action has to be reasonable. I will talk about amber alerts, Brittany alerts, and silver alerts. There are different criteria. There's also the new one, the turquoise alert. I will make a little bit of mention on that. So let's see. So let's go ahead and get into community caretaker doctrine. The community caretaker doctrine allows officers to act to protect the safety even when no crime is suspected. It is an exception to the warrant requirement under the Fourth Amendment. Examples include medical emergencies, stranded motorists, securing property after a crash, or helping a child who appears to be in danger, or anybody who appears to be in danger. But the actions must be reasonable and motivated by a genuine desire to help. And the reason why is under caretaker, we're not looking for evidence of a crime. We're not looking to prosecute anybody. We're generally here to assist. For example, if we get a call of an elderly person who has not been heard from for several days, and the neighbor said, well, he's usually here and we haven't heard from him. An officer can go over there, can knock on the door, and things appear that it don't appear quite right to say, maybe it does appear that maybe somebody is there, the TV's going on, but nobody's answering the door. Do we believe something may have happened? Yeah, it could have had something. It's up to the officer. But if you got a 75-year-old person in there who has health issues, there may be an issue there. So the officer at that time can, under caretaker, make entry into the house to check on the person. And we've done that before, where we will find somebody who's either fallen or hurt or in some cases, they're okay. We have to identify ourselves. We knock and announce and go in there. But once we find out that everything's okay, that's it, we leave. But we can't enter houses without a warrant based on that for caretaker, but we're not looking for evidence of a crime. That is the key thing. And like I said, it has to be reasonable. You're not gonna sit there and tear apart all kinds of stuff. If you're looking for a person, you're not gonna be looking in cabinets or anything like that. You're just going there looking for a person. Okay, so those are some of the definitions we got. We got the alert system. This is just a little overview. Like I said, we're gonna talk about Amber Alert for child abductions, Brittany Alert for endangered people with developmental disabilities, or also with that also includes sometimes substance addictions and so forth. Silver alerts for endangered older adults with cognitive decline. And now with the new, it's not on here, but now with the new turquoise alert, those alerts for indigenous persons also with developmental disabilities or something like I said, addictions and so forth. On all our alerts, the New Mexico State Police by statute is the agency to go to. They are the ones who put out those alerts. All departments in the state of New Mexico, if they want to put out Amber Alert, Brittany Alert, Silver Alert, or a turquoise alert, they have to contact the New Mexico State Police. They are the ones who make the determination. We can say, well, these are the criteria, we got that, but ultimately, they're the ones who are gonna make the decision whether they're gonna issue an alert or not. And sometimes they will make alerts for something, some issues that don't quite, meet the whole requirement and some, but that is their call. It's not our call. So a lot of times we'll get a call, why didn't you do an Amber Alert? Why didn't you do this? We did call, and no alert was put out because for whatever reason. So, but that is, up to the state police. So, Amber Alert, our criteria here, just in a nutshell, evidence of a non-family or custodial abduction. Now, some states do put custodial abduction from families and all that, but at the current time, New Mexico is non-familial abduction. However, there have been some cases where a child is abducted by a non-custodial parent, and have been taken someplace, that, like I said, those are up to the discretion of the New Mexico State Police. But it's reasonable. We have to tell them what we got, and they're the ones who make the decision, but say, hey, this is what we got. This doesn't quite add up, doesn't quite meet the requirements. Sometimes I'll say, we'll issue an alert anyway, which is good, and they are very good at it, the whole purpose, and I'm gonna come to this at the very end, but the whole purpose is for the safety of the people, safety of the children. And it has to be a child under 17 years or younger. We have to have specific information about an abductor and that the child that can help the public. And we have to have reason to believe that the child is in imminent danger of bodily harm or death. We have to have something there. Now, I would say, going back to a child of a custodial abduction, say it's just a dispute between two parties, and one wants to have full custody, a custodial dispute, but there's no indication that the person's gonna hurt them or gonna do something. So it may not even go up, but however, if you get a child who's taken by a parent, a non-custodial parent who has alcohol or drug issues, or who has is known for violence and stuff like that, that may up the ante, and that can be issued in an Amber Alert. But like I said, that is up to the state police to make that determination. We'll give them all the information that we can. They have to make that decision, which is why we have to have specific information. Brittany Alert is an endangered person who is confirmed missing. Clear indication of development disability, or could be, like I said, substance abuse issues there. And information that can assist in safe recovery. So Brittany alerts can be put out, say, if it doesn't meet Amber, if you have a juvenile who has taken off and we cannot find them. However, you have a history of suicidal ideation or a history of alcohol or drug abuse, that can be put out as a Brittany alert. So that can be put out because we have issues there that could endanger the child. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are. Because a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with juveniles, when you're dealing with runaways, a lot of these are not, they're not usually the ones that we get right away. We get these calls. These are kids who have a history of it. These are kids who, for lack of a better way of putting it, do not come from the best backgrounds, family backgrounds, where it's like grandma's taking care of the child, and the child hasn't come home for the last 3 days, and finally somebody's reporting him missing, and so we're behind the curve. So then we'll ask them, do they have some problems? Do they have mental issues? Do they have suicidal ideation? Do they have suicidal attempts? Those are things that we ask. So the more information we get, the more we can put out there. Silver alerts, endangered missing person who is confirmed missing, age 50 or older. A clear indication of irreversible or deterioration of intellectual faculties. Blah. So you have an elderly person who onset of dementia. Uh, Nobody seen them, took off on their car, was supposed to go from Gallup to Albuquerque and never made it to their destination. They will issue silver alerts. There was one that was put out about a month ago, 2 months ago, out of Albuquerque. Unfortunately, the individual was found deceased, but in Silver City, not Silver, in Socorro area on I-25. So those alerts, but the alert worked. That came out, a trucker happened to see the plate number that was put out, the vehicle description, called it in, and they did find them. So they do work. Now, I will tell you on the turquoise alert came out, as a reaction to the MMIP crisis, the missing children on the Ashley and Mike situation, the Emily Pike situation, which is we're looking at the missing and murdered indigenous people, because they're also finding out that a lot of these cases are just put aside. So that came up, but basically a turquoise alert is nothing more than a Brittany alert for indigenous people. You still have to show that this person is a member of a tribe or pueblo. You have to show that they have some kind of either addiction or there's something to alert that they're in danger of some sort. So like I said, Brittany alerts pretty much nothing more than or turquoise alerts a Brittany alert for indigenous people. So that's what it is. Now, get to reporting minors missing, some things that have to be done, report it as soon as you are alarmed. A lot of times we get these calls, like I said, grandma, kid lives with grandma. Grandma doesn't see him for 2, 3 days and finally says, well, maybe I need to call somebody. Sometimes these things we need to report right away. I will say this, and I'll get back to it. Time is not on our side when we're dealing with this. So as soon as a child as soon as you're alarmed, they're 3 hours late or something's not right, and they're usually here with you right after school or whatever. As soon as you know something's wrong, call. There is no waiting period. I keep hearing this, we have to wait 24 hours, or we have to wait 48 hours, and this is for generally, not just minors, but for everybody. You don't have to wait. Getting back to the first thing, as soon as you're alarmed, as soon as they are not accountable, it is time to call. There is no waiting period. Now, under New Mexico law and under federal law, a person under 21 must be entered into NCIC as missing within 2 hours of the first report to law enforcement. The reason why 21 under Suzanne's law, and that is federal. We do it under New Mexico. Everybody basically anybody under 21 has to be entered within 2 hours of the initial call. And 2 hours, you have and we did have this the other night. Say we had an incident of a 11-year-old getting in an argument with a sibling that took off. That ups the ante. I was ready to mobilize a lot of people. Let's get out there and look. At the same time, because we found him. He was about 2 blocks. Officers around the area looking for him. They found him. So they give him a little bit of leeway to look for them. However, it's got to be entered within 2 hours. Know this, that the first 12 to 48 hours are critical for the search and rescue. I will say this with juveniles. After the first 6 hours of being missing, there's a high probability that this child will be sexually assaulted. There's a very high probability. After 12 hours to 48 hours, both for children and for adults, there's a high probability that they could be, if it is an abduction, there's a high probability that we're looking at a homicide. So that's why we have to take these very seriously. That's why we have to jump on this, and that's why we do this. So common report mistakes, delaying the call to law enforcement. Sometimes people will say, well, he hasn't come back, so they start looking. Family will start looking themselves. They'll be looking all over the place, and it won't be till 2-3 hours later that they report to law enforcement. Well, how does that, if you think about it here in the city of Gallup, we are 16 miles from the Arizona state line. So can somebody be taken out, if it is an abduction, could they be taken out of the area real quick? Yes, so it is very vital we get on the ball. You know, city of Gallup is not that big, and you got Navajo Nation all the way around. You got also other places. Albuquerque is an hour and a half away. So we have to jump on these things, but a lot of times they delay these calls to law enforcement. Again, if they're gonna report it, they need to report them right away. And not taking the situation seriously from the very beginning. He's probably out there just messing around, teenager, doing things. If they are not accounted, if you can't find them, it's best to call. I will tell you, I tell these people, if you cannot find them, you don't know where they're at, you have no clue, enter them into NCIC. It's easy to make a phone call, hey, they've been found, and clear them. It's easier to do that, but once they get into NCIC, that goes nationwide. So if they go out, you know, if they're found, if they're runaways, or if they've been abducted, they'll, you know, they can be found. They're out there. No recent photo or clothing description. We have this a lot. I've seen a lot of missing persons reports that come in, and kid's 16 years old, but the last picture they have was when he was 15, in fifth grade. That's the last school picture that they had. Nobody really has any recent photos, or they have no idea what these guys are wearing. What's the kid wearing? He's wearing all black, okay? A lot of people wear all black, you know, more descriptions. Not knowing friends or hangouts or likely destinations. A lot of times as parents, we have no idea who our kids are hanging out with, who are middle school age all the way through high school. We don't know who their friends are. And so if they come up missing, where are they at? We have no idea. We have that a lot. They don't know where to say. If we know, and they are really not really missing, but say they're hanging out and they decide to have dinner with their friends, or if we know where to go, we can find them and say, hey, they're okay. But like I say, it puts us behind the curve, so we need to know these things, so we've got a place to look. And unclear the last time they saw, because hours have passed before anyone has noticed. We have this a lot with working parents, and it's not to blame working parents, but oftentimes I can look at myself. My children are all grown now, but I remember how many times I would get up, get ready, I go to work before they even go to school. I don't even see them until I get back home. Or when my girls were a lot younger, I used to take them to school. I would get up, get them ready, and I drop them off at school. So I would make sure that I knew what they were wearing. I knew what, where I dropped them off. Or a lot of parents don't do that. A lot of times you go to work, the kid catches the bus, and then the kid gets off of school, say 3 o'clock, he gets home, hangs around, does his chores, does his homework, maybe goes out and hangs out with his friends on the street. You don't see him until it's dinner time. So and when's the last time you talked to him? When he went to bed the night before. So hours have passed. And what can happen in hours? A lot can happen in hours. So. Okay, immediate actions after a report. Well, first, like I said, the entered person or child into CIC as a missing person. None of these alerts that we call the state police on, they cannot do anything until they are entered into NCIC. Those have to be done. That has to be done on the initial response level. And we have to search the immediate area and known hangouts. When we're dealing with, especially little children, I'm talking not necessarily runaways, but little children. Say you got a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old. I don't know how many times I've responded to these types of calls. We can't find the kid, everybody's panicking, everybody's looking all over the fields, all over every nook and cranny they can look. Did anybody really check the house? Find out the kid's sleeping behind the couch, sleeping in the closet. It's happened. So search of the immediate area. So everybody has to really buckle down and search. Request for amber, Brittany or silver alert, or now turquoise alert when the criteria are met. And coordinate with neighboring agencies for a broader search. When these things get out, people are gonna show up. We haven't used them. There was an organization called Seciwa, A Child is Missing. I've used them before. This is before we really got into the Amber Alerts and when it didn't meet Amber Alert criteria. But Seciwa is an organization out of Florida, and what they do is what they would do is through satellite, you would give them the information. And any place they'll say within a 2-mile radius to 5-mile radius to 10-mile radius, you just tell them what you want it. And they will from satellite hit every phone, it'll ring and it's a reported message. Now that a lot of that has gone to the side because people don't have landlines anymore. But as a detective, when I was here, I've used them several times and we have got some children found, runaways found and all that. So we have used them before. But when such an alert goes out, also people will show up. You'll get people that just show up just wanting to help. So as an officer or as somebody who's running that, I have to be able to know that. And when people show up, I have to give them something to do. Okay, you guys can search this field, direct them where to go. And so we will coordinate with neighboring agencies and we call in the sheriff's department, state police, all the people that we can. Now, those are protocols for getting the stuff going on for, as far as missing children. It's gonna go back a little bit further on our actual steps. However, when we get into this, when we're dealing with juveniles, sometimes we run into kids. And the question was, what about unsheltered minors and how do we know that they're trafficked? Well, first of all, like I said, New Mexico has no curfew or runaway offense for juveniles. It's not. Navajo Nation does. And Navajo Nation does have a an ordinance for juveniles, but the state of New Mexico does not. During this time, officer has to use his observations to assess safety concerns. And this is where the caretaker comes in. Now, we also got to understand that juvenile has a right not to speak to an officer if there's no crime or complaint. They don't have to talk to us. So, based on that, an officer uses his observations under caretaker. 3 o'clock in the morning, you're at a local store and you see a child. Any child appears to be unaccompanied and appears to be under 14 years old. We can go talk to him. What are you doing out here? How old are you? General question, how old are you? I'm 14. Where's your parents? They're at home. Okay. So why are you out here? We can go into talking to them. Now, at that time, that point, we can start what we call detention, where they're not free to go anymore, because we cannot just release a child to just anybody and say, okay, get out of here. We cannot do that. There's a lot of liability on it. So caretaker comes in. That's where it kicks in, where we can actually detain a child. Now, we can't get a hold of family, we can't get a hold of somebody, then we would have to call CYFD or Tribal Social Services or whoever. But that's where we do that under caretaker. Now, how do we You said lost, runaway, or traffic child. How do we know that? Simple, ask them. What's going on here? And the other thing is our eyes, our observations. What are we doing? We're looking for signs of bruising, torn clothes. You can tell if a person hasn't taken a bath in several days, that they've been sleeping outside, and you get a young child over there and you say no. Even if they don't want to talk to us, even if they say, well, I'm okay, you know, I live here and all that. Sometimes these people don't want to tell us, and they have their reasons. They have reasons. We also have to understand why juveniles leave. And we have, because a lot of times they're not coming from the best of home life. They're maybe being abused at home. We don't know, or they don't have a family. And may have a child who comes from a home where the parents are deceased or not there. They're being raised by elderly grandma or elderly grandfather or aunt or somebody or extended family. You know, and they're not being well taken care of. Those are things where we have to step and start doing things. So when we release juveniles, we can only release them to a guardian, to CYFD, tribal social services, or other law enforcement agencies. So you say we find somebody who appears to be uh, living off the streets, find out it is a 15-year-old girl who ran away from home from Shiprock. Well, we determined that much. You know, we will talk a little bit, see if we can find out any information, but she doesn't disclose anything to us. All we have is a runaway from Shiprock. So what do we do with it? We're not just gonna say, well, you can get out here and see you later. No. We have to call people, and that may be dispatch calling the Navajo Tribal Police and having them sent out here, or somebody from Tribal Social Services come out here and we can release them to them. But we have to release them to somebody. We can't just do that. We do have issues here that has happened, where we would contact, our CYFD, and CYFD will come out, and, they will take custody of children in that situation until, some, arrangements can be made. I can tell you if there is a runaway, confirmed runaway out of, say, California, it's obvious that we're not gonna just release them to somebody, we have to take them into custody, release them either to CYFD. Or on some, in some cases, the JPO will authorize, taking them to the, JDC, the Juvenile Detention Center, where they're there until they can make arrangements for them to be returned home. In either case, CYFD or social services need to be notified. There needs to be a study into the household, into why this child is taken off. Like I said, sometimes there are children who are abused, they're in abusive situations, sometimes they're neglected situations, lack of supervision. But you also have, sometimes you do have kids that are, for whatever reason, they get into trouble all the time and they're chronic. We have chronic runaways. As a matter of fact, the one that's missing from this year is a chronic runaway. She's run away from Texas, from her mom, and then they put her with her dad in Sholo. And she took off from her dad in Sholo. So we found her here. As a matter of fact, this is a prime example. They found her here in Gallup. And when they determined who she was, they called the parents out of Sanders. When people came from Sanders, she took off from them. So she's still missing. That one was just a week ago. So this does happen. But you have to find out why are they running? Why are they not home? Like I said, there's different reasons. Some of it could be substance abuse. So. Now, agencies and services contacted, like I said, the juvenile probation officers, JPO. We call them on anything to do with criminal matters or what will be criminal matters. You also got to understand that juveniles do not commit crimes per statute. They commit delinquent acts. It's a play of words, but what is a delinquent act? A delinquent act is any act that would be considered a crime if committed by an adult. It's a different definition, but it's basically the same thing, so. We have to call them, and they advise us on criminal detentions. Um. Just get an idea of what they do, say we have a domestic situation, 15-year-old fighting with his mom. You know, we have to call, we can't just go ahead and arrest them and take them to JDC. That has to go through the juvenile probation. They will say, okay, yes, you have enough, you can take them down, depending on the severity of the offense. Or say it's just an argument and he broke something, they may say release him back to the parents. So it's all up to JPO. CYFD, again, they handle housing and temporary custody. They also investigations into the household themselves. They're looking at the safety, health and safety of the family. Now you gotta understand, with law enforcement, we're looking at crimes. That's all we're looking for. We're looking at how are we gonna prosecute something. Caretaker helps us to get into, to help these children and all that, but under caretaker, we're just looking for the health and safety. But generally, we're looking for crime, so we have to turn that over to CYFD, but that's what they do. Tribal law enforcement, social service, they help handle tribal cases. You know, like I said, we can have a girl run away from Shiprock, we have to call them, it's theirs, but we're gonna hang on to them until somebody can get them. Medical facilities treat the health needs and also mental needs for the children. And CYFD is notified, if they say a child is involved in a car accident and they are not with their parents, they're with a bunch of friends and they're involved in a car accident over there, CYFD will be notified. We have to call because we don't know why they're there. And especially if it's a drinking issue, say we have DWI, we have to get involved, we have to call CYFD, try to get the parents if we can find them. So CYFD is vital for that. If it is a situation where a child discloses that they were either physically abused or either sexually abused, we do have to have medical evidence, we do have to have a medical screening. And a lot of times, well, it takes parental or a guardian to grant that. We cannot just do that, they have to grant that. Now, if it's the parent or guardian that's doing that, then we would have to give the custody to CYFD and they will step in as the guardian and they will authorize that. Now, out-of-state runaways, like I said, they may be held at a JDC at the JPO's discretion until return can be arranged. Now, when I say out of state, that also could be from the Indian tribes, from Navajo Nation. We may have a person here, let's take the example with the girl from Shiprock. We can have her here. And all of a sudden they can say, well, we're on our way, we got our parents, we're coming together. So we're not gonna call CYFD, we already got somebody here. Most of the time, it's gonna take a while, so our officer may take them to the police station and sit with them there. During that time, we may be talking to them, just talking to them and finding out what's going on, so we can give them something. Our officers are assured that they are safe. If they haven't eaten, most of the time our guys will feed them. McDonald's is just down the street. But we take care of them as much as we can.
So within that time frame, do you take them all, or when do you feel like you take them to like a medical screening? Just to make sure to rule out whatever,
I can't assume anything.
okay?
Okay, it's like. If you're just standing there, you're a runaway, I take you in and. I can't assume that you've been sexually molested. I can't assume that you've been hurt. If I don't see any evidence of that,
Mhm.
I can't, you have rights.
This is
Yeah.
Jean, nurse practitioner, and spent lots and lots of time doing child abuse and sexual assault work. So before a child can be placed out of home, they have to be medically cleared. And usually the social workers are real quick about getting them in. Kids who have been missing, even if they're going to be returned to the parents, if social work is involved, they almost always bring them in to make sure that nothing's being missed and they're okay, especially if the kids have been missing for a few days. So the medical exam usually happens within hours of them being recovered, is my experience. And I said, I've seen a ton of these runaway kids and missing kids. And generally as a provider, depending on the age of the child, we try to talk to the kid away from the parent so that we can make sure that we understand why they ran or, what was happening and, help ensure their safety with law enforcement, and with social services. So the medical exam usually happens within hours of them being found, unless it's real clear to social service and law enforcement that nothing happened. They just, like Tony was saying, took off and because they were mad or something. So I hope that's helpful. But yeah, usually it's pretty quick.
And like I said, a lot of times the officer itself can't do, we call either CYFD or tribal social services, they are the ones who make those arrangements. So. All right,
So
for
what about within this time frame though, like, yeah, we're talking about runaways, but somewhere down the way, it may be kind of like a beyond control juvenile. How do you handle that?
okay, I'll talk to that. In a
Okay.
minute, so. All right. Again, getting back to that, that would also have to be social services or CYFD to do that. You gotta understand law enforcement's role. We're here immediate help right now.
Mhm.
We're here to take them into, you have to take them into custody and relinquish that custody to somebody. I hate to put it this way, but we're not here to fix them. We're here to get it and,
Right,
you know,
safety.
that has to go, but we're a vital part of the whole group. Do
Mhm.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Now, screening and risk assessment. Most, first responding officers are not trained, in trafficking assessments. We're not. A lot, and should they be? I believe they should have some kind of training, but it's also something that we don't see all the time. Now, I will tell you, just because we don't see a lot of human trafficking cases and we don't see a lot of stuff like that outwardly, that doesn't mean it ain't happening. I will tell you, children who take off, incorrigible children, the ones who go off, always taking off, what are they usually into? They're usually into drugs. They're usually into, crimes to support their habits. Some of them, it doesn't matter whether they're male or female, could they be turning tricks to get money to support their habits?
Mhm.
A lot of that also falls into human trafficking. So a lot of times, if we don't see it, we don't know about it, we really don't know how to proceed by it. I mean, I can have all kinds of training, but if we're not seeing those types of reports, we're not seeing it. Like I said, it doesn't mean it ain't happening. It just means that we're not seeing it. Most officers, especially here in Gallup, it doesn't matter what level you are not trained to really see that, to do risk assessments. And a lot of times we're not trained to do a lot of things. So disclosure, sometimes people will disclose, children will come and just tell us what's going on. They need to be documented, but we also need to hear this and not cut them off, but hear them and refer that, let the CYFD worker or social services or let the people know this is what we got. So they know what to work with. It's working with each other. We use trauma-informed approaches and avoid detailed questioning. We cannot, and we tell our officers this, do not ask detailed questions, general questions. If they disclose, note it down and say something. Why? Because if they're coming from a traumatic experience, say if they're coming from an abusive home and they've just been beaten up or threatened that they're gonna be killed by the stepfather or whatever. When they disclose that to you, they're reliving that trauma. So they may say, they may tell you something and then, so you might just note it down, but you don't go ask them. I've used this in another training, when interviewing juvenile victims or juvenile witnesses. You show up at a scene and all of a sudden a kid's standing there, 11-year-old, he comes out to, you said, what happened? And you just ask, what happened? My dad shot my mom, he took off over there, she's right there. You shouldn't go sit there and say, why did he shoot her? Why did he do that? No, your job is to sit there and go and take care of injured, whatever, get somebody to go try to get the dad, whatever, get that child out of there and make sure that child is safe. We're generally not trained to talk to children, so that's why we have specialists that are trained specifically to talk to children, to get that information. Because, and one of the things that we've had a long time, it's been going on for a while, which I'm really glad, because we went to these multidisciplinary teams, one interview, one interviewer. Because when you get a child and you ask them a question, And another person asking the same question, another person asking the same question. Human nature, the child may add more to it, or may say, they don't believe me, and may shut down. So try to do it one time, which is why we tell our officers general questions. Don't ask leading questions, just general questions, but if they blurt out excited utterance, they just tell you exactly, you better note it down. Because you're gonna have, that's gonna be vital to either your case as an officer, or maybe vital to to tell CYFD or even the medical people, this is what they told us. So, like I said, trauma informed approaches have to be used. Specialists to conduct forensic interviews will be used when needed. This is what we have to talk about most: safety and confidentiality. They are our top priorities with juveniles. We have to make sure that these children are safe, period. But we also have to make sure that our confidentiality is followed. That means the news doesn't get their names, the news doesn't get any of that, so they're not posted all over the place. A detained juvenile must be released to guardian or CYFD or social services or to a juvenile facility under JPO. We can't just let these kids go. Like I said, going back to, we're dealing with a child over at the Maverick and runaway. We find out they run away and we're dealing with this. We're not just gonna let them go because they're gonna take off again. Or they could go out and get hurt. We have to release them to somebody. So either law enforcement, another law enforcement, CYFD, tribal social services, or to the parents. The one case we did have about a year and a half ago. Can't get back to caretaker, officers driving down the road in the neighborhood. Sees these two young children, these girls walking. It's in, I think it was in January, it's real cold. So they also noticed they're not wearing heavy jackets, they're just wearing they're heavy coats, they're wearing light jackets. 2 o'clock in the morning, it's like, what are these kids doing out here? Well, what had happened was these two had sleepover, one was staying over with their friend. And the other one says, hey, let's go check out Fort Canyon. So they were going out there, the parents didn't even know they were gone. But then the officer had enough sense to say, this is not right. Let's take a look, find out what's going on, stop. How old are you? You're 8 years old and you're 9 years old? He goes, yeah, where are you guys staying at? Well, what are you guys doing? We're gonna go check out Fort Canyon, go play at the playground. They don't have I guess, they don't have the mental facilities sometimes to differentiate. This is not right now, maybe you have to wait. And it's not that there's anything wrong with them, some kids are just like that. Sometimes so, and the parents had no clue they were gone, it worked out great, it was good. But that is a prime example under caretaker, how an officer will get involved in it. Now, if these children were not, to say you get a lot much younger, a 5-year-old wandering around the street that late, we don't know who they are. And say, where's your parents? You don't even know who your parents are. So we would have to call in social service. We would have to call CYFD to find out what's going on. Usually during those cases, the family will start calling, hey, we haven't seen the baby. Where's the baby at? Then they'll start, sorting custody. We already have the child here. And then it'll be maybe something we need to look into. Could that be a criminal investigation? Yes, it could be. If we're talking about gross neglect or something where a criminal charge, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just kids do take off. The last time I used a SEMA, that was where a 2-year-old went missing. And what had happened was mom and dad both worked night shift. They were asleep. Auntie came over, saw the child, changed the child, diapers, fed him. And I gotta go do my laundry, so I'm gonna take it with me, but never told anybody.
Oh.
It does happen. So was there a criminal issue? No, I was just glad they found the kid. So it does happen, so. But again, strict laws protect the identities and only the need to know parties are informed. We cannot just release information. We get under well, on the federal side, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, but what's that one? Public records request. Anybody can ask for a report. You know, you can go down to, the city and say, this incident happened at this time, you may not even have anything to do, but it happened at this house with your landlord or whatever. This is what happened, I want a copy of that police report. You can't obtain it. But say if there's a juvenile involved in it, a lot of times that'll be redacted. It'll just be, it'll have a mark off there, you'll be redacted. We do not release that information. And, you know, because we do have to protect identities of our victims of our juveniles. There's also other people out there who have nefarious intentions, and they will get birthdays, social security numbers, take out credit cards, even in juvenile names. They've done that, so we are very careful not to do identity theft. So reporting documentation, like I said, whenever we get stuff like that, when an officer hears something or sees something, whether it be abused, physical abuse, or even possibly sexual abuse, the officer has to notify CYFD. They do that through the statewide intake hotline. For you know, for any actions with a juvenile, even if they take them in. The jurisdiction drives with the agency investigating the city, county, or state. So say like we got a child that has been taken to GIMC, and all of a sudden GIMC, they report that they were physically abused. You know, of course, they're gonna be trying to call somebody. The officer may get there, but also they find out that it happened in Jones Ranch. It's out of our jurisdiction. We're gonna have to call Navajo Nation to take this report. You know, until they show up, we're gonna stay with them until they get there. Because like I said, we cannot just relinquish the custody over to just anybody. We have to wait until we turn them over. Once they get there, then they take over their investigation. Medical and forensic exam requires guardian consent or CYFD temporary custody when safety requires it. Like I said, they're the ones who gonna have to sign off as, CYFD is gonna have to sign off as the guardian. They have to have custody of to do that. They do have a 48-hour hold, which we do that, or actually, I'll take it back, 72-hour hold. 72-hour hold is where we can take a child into custody if we suspect physical or sexual abuse, and an officer feels that the child is not safe to be released to the guardian or back to the family. We could call CYFD and say, I want a 72-hour hold. So the CYFD will come in and they will place that child on 72-hour. They will take them into their custody and they are gonna step in as a family. They'll do that. But once they make the determination that the household is safe for the child to be returned, then they'll return the child. And we have to do it within 72 hours. It's 3 days. Reports list juvenile only as the initials, and they're, like I said, they're redacted for external release. So you will see if the child is named Julius Johnson, we'll just use that name. I say the child is named Julius Johnson. On the phrase page, the very front page, it will be listed Julius Johnson, so someone like me, I'll know who I'm dealing with. But in the narrative, it'll say JJ. JJ, the usually officer will put something to effect was, I spoke to a 14-year-old child who herein will be identified only as JJ. That is, in his narrative, that's all it's gonna say. So whenever the request to get, have that report released to an outside agency, all they're gonna do is release, they're gonna erase Julius Johnson, so they don't know who it is. Again, we have to, take, steps to protect the juveniles. Reports are screened, by the detective sergeant for follow-up or referral. All reports are brought in through, our detective division, all police reports. All reports, I read them, I personally have to review all violent crimes, anything to do with violent crimes, I have to do, I do that for statistical data. My part is I don't usually read the reports, unless they're involved officer, like this officer, had to take action against somebody, or, you know, whether they tased them or I have to read those specifically. But all I am looking at is, okay, domestic violence, if it's a domestic, is there a resident, non-resident, homeless person, all those I have to do, I'm just doing numbers. My sergeant, on the other hand, she's reading all of those reports, word for word. Now, she can reject them and say, well, officer, you need to fix this because there's something wrong with this report. You need to identify some, put some more stuff in. Or it's good to go. Now, are we gonna assign it? She makes the determination. Are we gonna assign this to to a detective for follow-up? Where she comes in and says, we think we need to do this, and I'll say, go for it. Or, this matter happened in, the county, so we're gonna refer this to MCSO, or we're gonna refer this to Navajo Nation. She makes those determinations, but all reports are reviewed. And it's a lot. Okay, so there are legal thresholds, especially with searches, kidnapping and abductions are criminal matters and require evidence collection, and legal process, such as warrants. If you have a crime associated with a missing person, and it's not just juveniles, it could be an adult. Say you get a person coming from a very abusive domestic situation. Their disappearance could be something that we have to look into. We need evidence in order to prosecute them. For lost children and missing people with disabilities, the community caretaker doctrine allows us reasonable searches to focus on safety. Now, again, say we got a lost child, or we got grandpa who walked off from the rest home, and grandpa's got dementia, and he also has multiple health problems. And he walks off at 10 o'clock at night, we're looking for him. We could search ditches, we could search outhouses, outbuildings, not outhouses, but outbuildings.
Everything.
But say you got a neighborhood and you got a shed here, you got a shed there. Generally, if you're gonna enter that, you have to have a warrant to get in there because it's a criminal matter, but under caretaker, you're looking for the person, you're just looking for the body, so you can look in the shed. If it's close enough, and I've seen this happen, we've never had to deal with this, but I've seen it happen in different investigations where abductions, where they set up roadblocks and they said, well, this person possibly in a white van, I'll just use that, possibly in a white van. So all of a sudden, officers are pulling all over white vans, opening up. They could stop them. I'm officer such and such, Gallup Police Department. We had a report of a abducted child, possibly in a white van. You're obviously a white van. Is anybody else in the vehicle? Is okay? And they can check and say, okay, no, it's good. Everything's good. You can go. They have that authority to check. Like I said, because they're not looking for criminal, they're not looking for criminal stuff. Now, say, we'll use that white van. Say you pull over a white van, you're looking for a missing child. And also you open up and you find that this guy has all kinds of drugs and all kinds of stuff there. You may stop and say, okay, well, we don't have the missing child, however. We may need somebody over here and that has to start taking the process there, and warrants have to follow that. But under caretaker, we can check, but it's got, like I said, reasonable searches. Again, if evidence of a separate crime is found during the caretaker search, a new investigation must start, and warrants for seizing items have to be there. That's why a lot of people will say, well, you went in there and that's a drug dealer's house. I say, yeah, but we're not looking for drugs. We're looking for a missing person. Okay, getting back to here, our GPD response the first 24 hours, 20 to 48 hours. Whenever we get a missing child, and this is mainly for missing children and missing adults with dementia problems, with things, because we don't know what's going on. All available personnel will respond on non-runaway cases. All available officers will go. Now, first thing they gotta do is establish an inner and an outer perimeter of the scene. We have to secure the scene. Because we don't know if this is a criminal matter, and we have to secure them. All unauthorized people are cleared from the inner perimeter. That means everybody out of there, so we can actually search the place if we have to. But we also have to separate people, witnesses, suspects, because if it is a criminal matter, we don't want tainting of information. Now, I can point to you three ladies, okay? Say you guys witnessed a shooting. Not a missing person, but say you guys witnessed a shooting. And we just put you in a room here. And you're sitting there saying, oh man, I just got so scared. I didn't know what it was. What's that guy wearing? And Yolanda here says, oh, he was wearing a black jacket. He goes, oh, okay. He goes, and the other lady sits there and said, well, yeah, I saw that he had a gun and it was a pistol. Well, you really didn't see that. All you heard was bang and you just freaked out. And that does happen. But say you guys all talk about it, and then finally when you talk to you, so he goes, oh, yeah, it's a guy coming, he's wearing a black jacket and he had a pistol and he was shooting. So you didn't really see the whole thing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have to separate everybody so we get an accurate account of what happened. We can piece these things together. But when everybody talks about it, you may say you saw something that you really did. I've used this example, and last week when I was teaching, I was, as an officer, as a rookie officer, I walked in on a robbery where a guy, walked around the corner and pointed a gun at me. That, and I was talking, it's funny because one of the officers who was in this class was there. And he started laughing, and this is over 30 years ago. But I said, to this day, I was a young officer. I didn't know anything about training or any of those things at that time. I was a rookie. I just barely qualified with my sidearm a week before. When this happened, I said, I saw the guy, he walked around the corner. All I could tell you is there was a guy, and all I could tell you is that he had a gun, and I could tell you exactly what kind of gun he had. He had a 25 automatic gun, which is actually a small gun, but that barrel looked that big when he pointed it. I said, to this day, I know who the guy is. I don't know what he looks like. I cannot tell you what he did. I can tell you what the gun he had, because I focused on just that. And everybody does that. When you're in high stress, audio exclusion, you may not hear shots fired. Time distortion, things slow down. When it happened, like blink of an eye, it seemed like hours. It seemed like it took a long time. But there's also what they call tunnel vision. You focus only on certain things where other people don't. So if you get everybody sitting there talking about it, then you take the thing, or you may think, I think it was black. Oh yeah, he was definitely wearing black. So we got to keep it separate. And suspects, when you put them there, they sometimes get an opportunity to fabricate their story based on what you said. So we have to keep everybody separate. Part of that is identifying the staging area and initiate what we call the incident command system. These are, like I said, missing children. When I got the call on that 11-year-old, I was thinking this: we got to set up a command post. We got to set up a staging area. We need to start working on this because it may be a lot bigger than what it is. So we have to get this thing going. Staging areas are there for a little ways from the scene, because what happens is when you get a call like that, every cop, every fireman, everybody and their brother is gonna go to the scene, and could ruin your scene. So you have to give them a place to go there where you have some kind of control. We got these people coming in, where do you need this team to go search? What areas have you searched? So it's gotta have some organization. And also, again, the person has to be entered into the NCIC as missing within 2 hours. Gather a current photo and medical information. To find out the most likely destinations. Reason why we initiate the incident command ICS is because that opens doors for other agencies to get involved. You always think the worst possible scenario, and you get as much people as you can get going on there. So what happens? You initiate ICS, you get everybody rolling, and all of a sudden you find a kid sleeping behind the couch. It's very simple. Go ahead, cancel every alert. We found him. Everybody can stand down. No big deal. But when you wait too long and time is of the essence and you're not getting everything into right away, then it's a lot harder to get people rolling. It's a lot harder where you can search areas where you should have searched right away. That could have helped find the person. I'm not gonna get too critical in the Ashland Mike thing or the Emily Pike. However, that was clearly things that happened. For whatever reason, there were some delays. There were some delays in how people coming in to help with the people coming in to search. And the result was the death of 2 children. And I will tell you, On a personal note, I've had to plan 2 funerals for 2 of my children. It's not fun, it's not easy. One was 16 years old, that was about a year and a half ago. And my son who passed away in 2011, he was 19. But I know what it's like when I have to do that, and I don't want anybody to go through that. And if at all possible, if I can do anything to avoid that situation, I'm gonna do it. I always say, it goes, not on my watch if I, well, it's not gonna happen on my watch if I can help it. Some things you can't help, but if I can help it, no, we're gonna do it. So it's better to go all out and have everybody respond and call them off. Now, the last part, detective supervisor, which could use sergeant or myself or whoever can come in, they assume command. And we start assigning lead detectives. Now, if it's a bigger thing and it's a huge thing, sometimes that may be taken over by the chief, or it can be taken over by somebody else higher up. But generally, it's yours. You gotta figure out what you're gonna do. All right. Now, state and federal cooperation, like I said, the Mexico State Police issues all alerts after requests from our agencies. Incident Command opens up access to search and rescue fire and private support organizations. In order to get state search and rescue, you have a child walk off. And this can't happen here. It actually did. We had a 13-year-old take off from the family just outside, just at the very edge of the city limits. Well, this area here, they got the hogbacks there. There's a bunch of hills. There's all kinds of stuff up there. Obviously, we don't have criminal jurisdiction out there, but we're searching there. But then it's when you only got 5 officers on patrol on a night shift, you don't have near enough. So they will start calling out the Mexico Search and Rescue. They will come out and they will organize a search party. And they will go looking for them. We did find a kid. It was kind of funny because the kid, we were all looking there and he was right there. He was hiding right beside an officer who was standing there in a little ditch. He was right there. He goes, where'd you find him? Right here. It does happen. But those are good. Those are ones that were okay. But yeah, so ICS opens up the access to outside agencies. And coordinated with state, federal partners, that also includes NCMEC, and neighboring jurisdictions as needed. We get a very large, operation. It may not even be a missing person, but if we have, say we have a train accident or train breakdown, plane accident somewhere on here, it can happen. Well, what happens? Everybody's coming in, also, we cannot account for a juvenile, we can't account for people. Well, guess what? It's now a missing persons case too. So we all have to work together. That's why I'm saying, when we initiate ICS, it comes out and everybody comes out, so it may be bigger than just what the detective supervisor can handle. So it may be a bit larger operation. So, recovery operations. The first priority for children, missing child, is the health and safety of the child. We have to ensure that that is there, whether that is getting them medical help, that is getting them some possible mental health help. That is what we have to do. Now, if an injury or abuse is suspected, take the child for medical examinations and notify CYFD. CYFD will follow up on a lot of those stuff. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes it may not necessarily be a law enforcement issue. We're looking for evidence. Law enforcement is looking for evidence. That's what you gotta think about. But say, a child is, missing because they were with some friends and all of a sudden, a cow ran in front of them in McGaffey and they hit a cow and some people got hurt, seriously hurt, and the child, we don't know who this child is, and they wind up at the hospital. We're gonna get called in this, so we have to look into this. So it may not be a criminal matter. It may be something that the parents knew about, that they were with these, but they didn't know that this was gonna happen. So we have to look into a lot of these things, but if injury is or abuse, just injury, we have to make sure that they're medically cleared. And we also know that CYFD. CYFD assumes custody upon arrival of a caseworker. It's their baby. They got it. Police welcome, complete criminal investigation with evidence to collect and forensic interviews as needed. But like I said, like I was telling, this class I was teaching, last week, sometimes we also have to show that a crime wasn't committed. And we have to be able to show that. We have to be, we don't do our investigations, without passion or prejudice. We are seekers of the truth. We're in the middle. We have to find out what happened. And that's all we're here for, is to answer the question, what happened? And now, if somebody is accountable, a criminal accountable, we will do that. Sometimes it's not, but we still have to follow through with a lot of stuff. And we cannot do that alone. We have to call CYFD or sometimes the tribal social services. Now, aftercare and reintegration. Aftercare is usually managed by CYFD or social services. Like I said earlier, we don't want to put it bluntly, but we're not here to fix them. We're here to find them and we're here to take care of criminal matters, but we are also people. We also have to take into account where it's just not what, we have to be there. Like I said, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. That could be my child. That could be my grandson, my granddaughter. I have to take responsibility to do what I have to do in a professional manner. So we do that. Support also includes medical, psychological, and educational and legal services. That's through the Tribal Social Services or CYFD. The aim is safe placement of a family reunification when appropriate and long-term stability. Like I said, sometimes kids are taken out of situations or they run away from situations that are not safe. And that may mean not placing the child back to where he was at, but finding, even with the family, in a family core, you can find somebody there who's willing to take responsibility for the child. But that's something that that will have to be worked out through the assisting agencies. Now, that is pretty much a nutshell how things work, but how do we work with this community prevention and awareness? How can we prevent this or actually try to lessen this stuff as people, not law enforcement, but as general citizens? Well, first of all, families and schools, communities should know, again, who the friends are, who the hangouts are. You go to schools, you go to some of these schools, you talk to these counselors, and you have a child there who, for whatever reason, has been in trouble or whatever. They all know who these guys hang out with. Well, why don't we as parents know that? How come we don't know who they hang out with? We should know their friends. Where do these friends live? Oh, I've had so many people come, well, he hangs out with this person. Well, where's this person? I don't know. We don't know where he lives at. As parents, we should really be finding out, with our children, number one, who they hang out, where they're going to. Where are you gonna be and when you're gonna be back? I remember there was a time growing up, soon as the sun gets dark, then come home. We could take off, be out in the hills and nobody really cared. It's a different time now. My girls were little, when my kids were little, my girls particularly grew up here in Gallup, they would never leave the yard. They would never leave the yard and they would never go anywhere without us knowing. My son, he's in his late 30s now. In the military, when he was growing up, he used to go, we'll be out in the woods on the back, the place where we lived at in Zuni. There was just hills out there and I didn't care as long as he came home. He'll come home when he's hungry, but there are different times. So nowadays, you really have to watch where your children are at. You really have to know who they're with. So we should know that. We should also teach safety skills to our children and monitor their online activity. How many kids are on cell phones all the time? I mean, there used to be a time when you could sit there and talk, and who has cell phones? When the cell phones came out, well, maybe a high school student had, maybe. Then all of a sudden, high school students have them. Now you got kids in grade school. My 11-year-old grandson has a cell phone. It's kind of funny because his mom brings a cell phone to me. He goes, well, he's going to your house after work, so it's okay. So I got it. But the thing is, how many times do we monitor what we're doing? What apps are they on? Are they on TikTok? Are they on Snapchat? Are they on, what are these social media platforms are they on? And a lot of times we have no clue. A lot of times they're talking to other people and these people are talking, influencing them to do things. Or you have a child who never would think about running away. All of a sudden they're saying, well, if you come here, they're called grooming, if you come here, they want to try to get something out and make it sound good and they'll take off. Those are things we've got to be aware of. So we need to teach those safety skills to our children, and we need to monitor what they're doing. We need to recognize grooming and warning signs and report concerns quickly. You got a child who doesn't have that much, you come from a home that doesn't have that much money. It's not saying they're a bad family, they're actually a pretty good family, but all of a sudden this kid comes up with some new clothes or new shoes, all kinds of stuff that, where'd you get those? Mom and dad didn't buy, somebody's buying them for you. Why? Question why? Where are they getting all these things? It's called grooming. These people will start trying to be their friend and bringing them in there because they have their reasons, their nefarious reasons for bringing these kids in. They're grooming them. Child molesters do it all the time. People in human trafficking, sex trafficking, they do it all the time. They will bring a child in there, especially coming from a runaway from a bad home. You're running away, your parents will, I'll take care of you. I'll give you a place to stay. You need some nice clothes? I'll give you some nice clothes. Need some money? Here's some money. Okay, now that you're doing that, it goes, okay. Say it's a young child, say 13, 14 years old, young girl. 25-year-old man is doing that. Because I love you. Then all of a sudden they wind up going and they wind up coming in, get into a sexual relation. But what's he doing? He's grooming her. He goes, now that I own you, now you'll be doing it for these guys. You'll be doing that to these guys, and I get the money. That's how grooming starts and how it actually gets there. By the time they realize where they're trapped and they can't get out. So we need to know these things. We need to know what grooming is and signs of it and report it quickly. Because sometimes these children will get into situations that they can't get out, they feel they cannot get out. We have to be able to see those signs. Law enforcement, we provide training on missing persons and alerts, child abuse and welfare and safety. We do that. We do that for our officers, but we can also do it for general public. Like I said, when we do training for officers, we're looking at how to get evidence, how to put together a case, how to get a conviction. But when we're talking to the general public, of course, this is what you need to look for. This is what you guys need to do. It's not just for a conviction, but it's for the safety of your child. You need to see this. And community cooperation and rapid reporting improve outcomes. So as soon as we get this information in there, we get on it. Like I said, time is not on our side. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I had a question from earlier. I had an incident where the mother was aware of the child communicating with a young man or a boy over the phone, and so she no longer wanted her mom to come in her room, and all the things, a lot of things changed, her character changed, like for some time, and her question was if she wanted to go to the police, but then she didn't know if that was an emergency or whatnot, non-emergency, to even make a call, if it was worth it for the officer to come and then question the situation, or if she should go to somebody at the school and talk to the teachers about it.
Either way, teachers, in New Mexico, we have mandatory reporting. If they feel that there's a danger, they need to report it to somebody and they call law enforcement. We'll get involved that way, or they could call us. Again, like I said, it's easier to report something and say, okay, find out it's really nothing, than to be behind the curve and find out it actually was something. I use this example with that very same thing. Say you got a young girl, 12 years old, 12, 13 years old. Got a single parent. She's being raised by her dad. Her mom, for whatever reason, is not in the picture, but she's being raised by her dad. Now she reaches that age where, she's going into womanhood. She don't want him to know anything. She'll be closing that door. He don't want anything, but what if he doesn't know? Something's going on with her. Maybe there's something, change her behavior, whatever. can easily go in there, find out what's going on, or just report it and they can look at it, it's nothing, it's okay. But I'd rather have something reported to me and me looking to find out it's really nothing than find out it was something and we should have done something a lot sooner. So again, it's easier for a missing person, it's easier to call it in, have them entered into NCIC. It's easier for me to call them up, say, we found them, disregard, take them out of the system. It's easier for me to do that than having to come up and try to put together a case and, or having a body somewhere. I'd rather do that. So as a parent, I know that all too well. I've seen my children go through different phases and all of a sudden they don't want to have anything to do with me, but, it comes down to my house, my rules. You're gonna live here, and it goes, then, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna tell you to clean this room or whatever. I still keep keep tabs on my children as long as they're living in my house. My youngest daughter right now is 19 years old. She still lives in my house. She's legal adult. If she don't wanna follow my rules, she don't have to. She can go live somewhere else. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but that's my house, my rules. And if you do that, and you keep that also tells a child. Or tells a child that you care about them. They may not like it. They actually don't. I had an incident, this was some time ago with my late son. And he was talking about it. I think he was like 18 or he just turned 19 or something. He goes, I need rules. And he even told us, I need rules. And I said, you're a legal adult. I can't tell you what to do. I can't ground you. I can't do anything. He goes, I can only tell you, this is the house, you're not gonna be drinking in this house and do all this, but it was kind of neat because he goes, at that time, it's like he knew where we stood as parents. If you wanna have a wild life, you can go do that somewhere else, but, you're not gonna do it here. Again, my house, my rules. Parents, we have to start being parents. Bottom line, we have to start being parents. And not let these things, these cell phones, computers, babysit our children. We need to know what's going on with them. So what can families do now? Keep a recent photo, a description and include clothing. Like I said, we have things where kids 15 years old. The only photo they have was when he was in the 5th grade. It's like, take a picture of him. How many people does this? Something, they'd be taking all kinds of pictures. Save a picture, a recent photo. Again, know your neighbors, friends, their common hangouts. Where do they go? I like this here, record height, weight, and any unique marks. They used to do that with the kids, go stand up there and put a mark on theirs, how tall are they, growing kids like that. But you'll know the hair, especially how many kids, my grandson. He wanted to dye his hair purple. I said, okay, well, that's your mom's choice. She wants to let you do it. But if that's what you're gonna do, but at least know what his hair looks like without color, without the dye, and what it looks like with dye. Unique marks. How many people know of the scars they have or tattoos? Those are things that we need to know. In law enforcement, sometimes that is the only way we can identify someone. Unfortunately, this is not a juvenile. This was a incident where a person was hit by a train. Body was beyond recognition. But he had a unique tattoo on his knee. And it was a hatchet man, the ICP. And the mom was clueless, because I know he has tattoos, I don't know. But it was a brother, younger brother goes, ICP on his leg, which one? His right knee. And we had a picture of it. Yes. So we're able to identify him. Unfortunately, a lot of times these are coming after the fact, but we need to know. If we have a situation, we need to know, but the unique marks. And it doesn't have to be a body. We did have an incident where a young lady overdosed and was in a coma. They flew her out to Albuquerque, and she was out for a long time, for about a week. So during that week, we didn't have any idea who she was. And we were getting pictures of tattoos and all that. And then at those times, we just wait, and then we have to wait. And all of a sudden, somebody reports them missing. We haven't seen my aunt for a while, and so, well, what does she look like? And a lot of times We can piece it together and it's that she had a tattoo, it's okay, then she's at the hospital. This lady actually, she eventually died from her drinking, but she was about 2 years later. She came out and she was able to, she was okay after that. But like I said, unfortunately, that's what happened there. So, scars, marks, tattoos, unique marks are vital, are real good here. Discuss safety plans on, and how to seek help, talking to the children, tell them. One of the things I hate is when people come up to say, they tell their children, you better behave, that cop over there's gonna put you in jail. So what does that tell the child? If I'm in trouble, if anything happens, I'm going to jail.
Yep. Fear not.
So if you tell them, because if you're in trouble, those are the people you can talk to. You can talk to an adult, you can talk to people. Teach them that, yeah, we have to teach them that there are dangers out there. We don't have to scare them, but we have to teach them there are possible dangers. But we also have to teach them that there are people out there to keep them safe. There are people out there for their safety. So, we discuss safety plans. Part of the safety plans, even I do this with my family. We go to a mall or something. I'll be walking to a mall, Albuquerque. Of course, teenagers, they don't want to be hanging around their parents a lot of times. In my case, it's dad doesn't want to be hanging around with them because they're avid readers. They'll always, if I go to Albuquerque, they want to go to Barnes and Nobles. I hate books. So I will tell them, so, okay, we're here. Let's meet here at this time. Or if anything, emergency comes up, you know where the car is at, we will meet at the car. But have a safety plan, something like that, something to go to. And it doesn't have to be, just, so what happens if you have, especially if you're in the mall, you have with your children and they're doing that. All of a sudden you have a plan to meet somewhere, they don't show up there, something's wrong. And what do? Call 911, we got a missing kid. It may be nothing, they just got caught up in the game room or whatever. It's easier to call and say, never mind, we found them. So those are safety plans. Those are things that we need to initiate. Those are things you need to discuss with your kids. Again, call 911 for emergencies and report concerns without delay. The sooner we get this in, the better. Now, closing remarks here. Time is not on our side. I said we need to get, especially with missing juveniles, with children, time is not on our side. We need to get the stuff out right away. And every missing person is someone's child. Every missing child is someone's child. Like I said, I look at it this way, that could be my child, that could be my grandson, my granddaughter. When we're talking about elderly people, that could be my grandfather, my grandmother, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister. Somebody out there knows these people, or somebody cares about them. Even if they're street people, somebody out there knows, it is somebody's child. Even if it's a 17-year-old runaway, chronic runaway who's got a methamphetamine problem, that's still somebody's child. And that could be your child too. Because if you think that we got perfect families, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Everybody, addiction doesn't discriminate. Everybody's got problems there. Like I said, for emergencies, call 911 or local dispatch, here in, Gallup, 722-2002 is our non-emergency, dispatch number. That one is actually pretty good to say, if you're not really sure if it's an emergency, you can call that.
722-2002.
722-2002.
Sorry, say that one more time.
505-722-2002. Yeah, that's not an emergency dispatch number. If you're not really sure, or say, hey, I don't think this is an emergency, but I wonder, do I need an officer here? You can call that. And they'll dispatch somebody. So that's not an emergency, and if you got any questions here, or now's your time, you can contact me. Again, like I said, I'm Lieutenant Anthony Seciwa with Gallup Police Department. My email, is there, and my phone number, so if you need to get a hold of me, I'm really available. Melita knows that. If I don't, email is probably the best way to get a hold of me, because if I'm busy, oftentimes I'm working on things, or I'm somewhere else, but I can easily look on my email. Even at lunchtime, I can check my email and I can respond to that, so.
I have a question.
Yes.
Have you come across, because we want to discuss not just city, but like tribal. Have you come across any tribal law enforcement that does not have access to NCIC?
Yes. Navajo Nation,
What does NCIC stand for people who don't know?
the National Crime Information Center is NCIC. And NCIC is it's an app, if you will. It's an organization, but it's an app, if you will, where our dispatchers put everything in there, whether it's missing people, whether it is stolen guns, missing cars, all of that goes into NCIC. It's also connected with our motor vehicle registration. We can do an NCIC check, or if they're wanted, they're in NCIC. They're all entered into that. Now, some agencies don't have that. Some agencies on certain levels have that. I know with missing people, the Navajo Nation, they have some of it that has NCIC and others don't. They're putting their missing people into a Utah place, a CGIS, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Now that being said, sometimes we can get, and we've had this. People come in and say, well, we haven't seen grandpa in in a couple of years. He's missing. So we want to report him missing. We have nobody seen him in a couple of years. And we may do a check on him, and what we usually do is we'll run him into NCIC, and if he's not entered there, we'll open up our own, we'll enter him and we'll do that. But all of a sudden we find out he's entered into CGIS. And there's sometimes they're so spread out, because you got Navajo Nation, a big area. And you got in Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, you got the whole Four Corners area there. It's a lot of places, a lot of people, a lot of places. So sometimes they're triple reported, sometimes they're double reported, sometimes they're not. Which is why I really like working with the FBI and with the DOJ, the Department of Justice, the AG's office, Attorney General's office in New Mexico. My missing persons reports list, they go to them. And sometimes they'll look at they have an FBI analyst, they'll look through there, so, oh, this person they do the research. And they'll say, this guy was entered here, it was entered before, and they'll go ahead and start clearing these cases so that they can concentrate on the other cases. So it is kind of confusing. Hopefully, and I know there is, it's in the works to get everybody on the same sheet of music, but a lot of times you also have to realize how big things are and how government works. Sometimes it doesn't always work fast. It sometimes takes forever to get things done. So that being said, any other questions?
Yes, we have Mr. David Chiwiwi. He has a question. You can go ahead and mute yourself.
Inakuboyam Hatena, David Chiwi. Thank you and good afternoon. My name is David Chiwi. I'm a Team Adam consultant with National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and also project coordinator with Amber Alert in Indian Country with the National Criminal Justice Training Center. One thing I just wanted to add on as far as some law enforcement agencies not having access to NCIC being vital because you're able to check if a child is missing and they're encountered somewhere, or any adult, anyone. And as the lieutenant was talking about, stolen guns, stolen property. If they're encountered by other law enforcement agencies anywhere, that they know that there is a want on that person or on that property. Also, if someone is wanted, criminal history, those kind of things, going through NCIC, a lot of our tribal communities don't have them. And one of the things that they can do is go through a BIA, a DOJ, through the Tribal Access Program to apply for the Tribal Access Program, and depending on what their certification and their training, their certification, whether it came through BIA, whether it came through FLATC, what type of certification that tribal agency has, that they may be able to get access to NCIC as well.
Thank you for sharing, David. Appreciate it. Now, we also have other law enforcement from other areas. Does everybody in this meeting have access to NCIC?
Are you asking me or?
No, just people who are
Everyone.
on, just in general, because we had a lot of people from like different locations. Well, thank you. Is there any other questions? Because I know that he went over a lot of information. It was very informative. Thank you so much for doing this. We prepared about last 2 months, right? And doing this, I kind of said, why don't you answer these questions and I'll put the presentation together for you to show up and present.
Well, that, I do have to thank Melita for that, because when she sent me a series of questions. And I answered all the questions as much as I could, but then it was a lot of material, so she had to edit some of that and actually cut it down for the interest of time. But it was, I did enjoy it. A lot of the stuff I actually teach with our basic criminal investigations and stuff. And a lot of the stuff we do this every day. So it was kind of fun. It was not really easy, but it wasn't too hard. But it was stuff that we do all the time. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you guys. Like I said, if you guys got any questions, shoot me an email and I'll answer it as best as I can, as quick as I can.
Oh, Bernadine.